My biggest regrets and what they taught me. Hey, and welcome to this video. This is episode 23 now of my month-long series where I talk for 10 minutes more or less every day, unedited, unscripted, and upload it on a topic. And just to see how my speech goes really. Can I improve at speaking? Do I learn anything from this? Who knows? But today it's another topic that has been generated by AI in the sense that I fed all the transcripts of my previous topics to an AI model, and it gave me this topic about my regrets and such. One thing I've noticed from these AI models is they seem to be very negative in their suggestions of topics. I think I'll adjust the prompts a bit to perhaps give me something more positive to talk about. Although perhaps the AI is already trying to game the algorithm. Like, I'm aware that negativity seems to do very well when it comes to these online content spaces, but I don't just want to make negative videos. There's plenty of them out there. I'd like to make positive videos, helpful videos, things that would help me in my situation if before I started this journey. So yeah, that's enough rambling for me now. Let's talk about regrets. So, and what I learned from them, of course. So, one thing I've come to think of recently about regrets is, in some way, these sort of regret fantasies, maybe that's not a good term, regret thinking patterns, they're not very helpful for two reasons. Now, number one, that's if you were to have done things differently, let's say you regret something you've done in the past, you wish you did something differently, perhaps there'll be quite a significant outcome difference. And, well, you'd be a different person now in that respect. That change in the past would change you to be a bit different now in terms of who you are. And you wouldn't have that regret, but perhaps you would have other regrets, So that doesn't help in that respect. At least I think. And maybe I'm just talking nonsense, but I almost certainly am. But yeah, the second thing is, well, if you regret something, at least regret doing something or not doing it in the past, what's stopping you from just doing it now? And that's something I've been thinking recently, and you'll hear a few examples of that in this video. Because, current you will be past you in the future. So let's say in 10 years' time, you might look back to yourself now and be like, well, I had those regrets 20 years ago. I had the same regrets 10 years ago. Why didn't I get started? And then at least I'd have tried. At least I'd know the outcome of such an activity. And sorry, I'm just sitting down for a change in the morning. Normally I stand up and walk around, but you might hear it a bit noisy, this chair rumbling around. But yeah, I digress. So, I suppose one of the regrets then, and this is one of the things actually, the bonus point, the biggest one of the regrets, and unfortunately this is always the answer now with past regret fantasies. And that is that I didn't buy any Bitcoin. I have bought Bitcoin, but I didn't buy it when it was cheap. Unfortunately, time travel fantasies and such have all been ruined because the answer is always buy Bitcoin if you go back in time, or if you have some sort of regret, you should do that, because you'd be so wealthy now if you got in early. Even if you got in a few years ago, you would be fairly, better off than you otherwise were. This is, of course, not financial advice, and I'm not saying that anyone should get involved in cryptocurrency, particularly if they don't really understand it. I don't really understand a lot of it myself, but it is a digital asset, of course, that you can purchase, and sometimes it goes up in terms of value, and you can then sell it on, or just hold it, or hodl it, whatever the cool kids say. So there have been a few points in my life where I've almost clicked on the buy button, but I changed my mind because of my fears, I suppose, at the time. So looking back on it, the very earliest was when Dogecoin first came out. Me and my university flatmates, we were trying to work out how to mine Dogecoin because it just cracked us up. We couldn't stop laughing at the concept of a Doge money. Like, the Doge meme had very recently been released, became popular. There was Dogecoin. It was used to fund the Jamaican bobsleigh team in the Winter Olympics of, I can't remember which year, but a while back. And we had it all worked out. We had free electricity, we had all our computers, but in the end, we just couldn't be bothered. Dogecoin ended up becoming fairly valuable in 20, 2021, I think it was. And it's still like much more valuable than it was in 2012 or 2014, whenever it was that I was going to get involved. But we just couldn't be bothered. Our laziness led to us not doing such a thing. The next was when, after 2017, I think it was, when Bitcoin crashed from $20,000 down to $3,000 a coin. And I was like, well, maybe it's crashed, maybe it's never going to go up, but perhaps this is a good time to get in. I'd made my Coinbase account, I had all the verification sorted, and I was about to buy, but it went up to 10k. Can you believe it? It went up to 10k, and that was just too high for me. I thought, damn, this is the top of the market now, it'll never go higher, there's no point in buying. And then, of course, under the pandemic, it went up to 60k or something ridiculous. I did end up buying a bit when it was at 30k, so I have made some money, but if I were to sell it, of course, I'm still holding it. But yeah, perhaps I should have bought more. But then I suppose, what did I learn from this? I guess if it's crashing again now, the Bitcoin value, should I be buying more? I've made a Kraken account recently, and my plan was to start just putting in £20 a week or so and see where it goes, because that's not an amount of money I would miss. I mean, I'd be pretty sad if I lost it all, but I guess it's not going to financially ruin me. And if it goes well, we'll see, I guess. So yeah, that's the first regret, I suppose. It's my classic filler word, I suppose. So, next regret, and that would be regarding this online content creation. So, YouTube's been around for most of my adult life. I think I should have done some research before starting this topic, but it came out while I was probably just before I started my first university degree program. And I was aware of it from just watching pirated cartoons and World of Warcraft how-to videos. And I even made some World of Warcraft videos myself, some gaming videos, but I never really continued from there. And, I'm sure everyone's thought of this, like, what if I started content creation when it was a small thing? Where would I be now? I guess the problem with that is there was no real incentive back in the time other than sharing videos with your friends. Why would you put all this effort in? Why would you spend all this money and time to learn the software and such? Because it wasn't as easy as it is now to do video editing and upload videos. I remember it taking forever to upload videos originally. Like, there was some sort of verification process, I think, or encoding process, which took a really long time when you uploaded a video. So what was the point at the time? So it's hard to think, I would have done differently back then. I suppose if I knew what I knew now, I would have, but that's probably the case for everyone. They'd pick some sort of niche and just crack on with uploading videos and become the creator in their area. But of course, I'm from this, you can see that I have started making videos now. And one thing I've noticed is I'm constantly getting recommended other very small channels now, like small commentary channels talking over video games and such. I really cherish finding these small channels because it's so interesting hearing their perspective on things. You can tell now, once you get started, which people are talking off scripts, which people are AI generating their content and such. You kind of pick these things up. You can hear cuts, that sort of thing, once you get started. Maybe other people can as well who watch YouTube a lot, or maybe not. But yeah, what was I talking about there? So that was my other regret. There are a few more regrets I suppose I can talk about. So, buying a house. Do I regret buying the house I bought? I bought a house in 2021 and I was unbelievably stressed afterwards. Like, I did everything alone. I was working 60-hour work weeks to save up the money to finally buy this house. I knew I wanted to buy a house for some reason. I guess the idea was to take on some lodgers who would help pay the mortgage and rent, and that seemed to be the mortgage and bills, and that seemed to be the fashionable thing to do at the time. But as soon as I moved in, I realised how much work it was to own a house, and I was on my own. Like, I'm living the loner lifestyle, of course. I didn't have any help. I navigated the whole process myself, and then, yeah, the thing that you realise when you buy a house is you are now responsible for everything in the house. Like, the house owns you in some respect. You need to make sure the roof is in good condition, the heating is in good condition, everything is in some sort of serviceable condition. If it starts to fail, then it's on you. You can't call the landlord. You've got to navigate the minefield that is tradesmen, and then hopefully not get scammed too much, and hopefully they'll sort your problem. If not, then, well, That's £1,000 wasted pretty much most of the time. Everything costs £1,000, it seems. Sometimes it's a bit cheaper once you've got a good tradesman. But yeah, it was really, really stressful. And in some regrets, I do really regret that. But I've got to a point where I'm fairly happy with how the house is. And I am actually thinking of selling the house and moving into some rental accommodation again for a bit. Because, well, for some bizarre reason, my company does offer subsidised rental accommodation, which, ends up cheaper than my mortgage and rent. Or maybe it's rent. Ends up about the same as my mortgage and bills. And also I'd have all the money from the house in a savings account generating interest, and or in a investment account generating returns. So it would actually financially be better at the moment. I suppose when you think about it, I'd be losing any gains that the house makes. So I guess it would be my luck to sell the house, then all of a sudden the housing market can go to the moon. Yeah, I suppose that would be a bit unfortunate, but at least I wouldn't have the stress anymore of having to actually manage the house and look after everything. So that's a big thing. I guess, though, in some way, because I'm an adult, I should have some more responsibilities than just vaguely trying to keep myself alive and posting videos daily, of course. Those are my only responsibilities outside of the house at the moment. So yeah, those are some regrets I've had. I only was able to cover 3 in this period of time, and I think this is something that would be very easy to talk about. Like, this could almost be a whole series, but it'd be a very depressing series. It would be like me outlining how pathetic my life is and all my various regrets. I didn't even get to scratch on, let's say, relationships and such. I'm sure everyone has some sort of relationship regrets in their life. Mine are somewhat unique compared with the average human. Perhaps that'd be a good video on its own. My being in a relationship as a loner. AI, if you're listening to this, come up with this as a good topic for me in the future, and perhaps I can talk about it. I'm sure people would love to hear it. But yeah, that's been me for today. Thank you for listening to this video, and I shall be back tomorrow for more.